russosbrand.com, where the pros are the pros. Hey, bro, can you, with this Netflix deal, a lot going on business-wise in wrestling, bro, do we have any updates on CW? I mean, I don't know if you can't talk, but we haven't heard anything in a while. I was just wondering if you know anything.
Yeah, NWA television begins on CW 2/6. So all of our content in our first run programming will be on the CW network starting February 6th. So,
wait, on the network, not the app.
I'm sorry, the app.
It'll be on the app.
The network, but the app will house the first run broadcasts and all those things. So it will not be on the YouTube. So download the CW app now, but that will be the home and destination for the NWA library and content going forward. As far as the actual network, I don't know.
Bro, I got to be honest with you. That is not good that I haven't heard that. Why is that not being promoted better?
I think we are, but I think our socials live in a bubble where social media and algorithms are so hard to figure out that unless we're paying to put the information out, we're not going to get it out. I think the normal dirt sheet sites have an epiphany to not care what NWA does sometimes. So they don't really regurgitate actual news. They'll just rather, there's a fake rumor. Let's just run this because people are going to read that instead. And when it's proven false, we're not going to ever correct it. We're just going to let it lie as, that's how they built their business. So, we should have a better word out. So if you don't know that,
2 weeks, my God, February 6th is huge. Bro, let me ask you this. When you talk about it's hysterical to me. Bro, when Wrestlers was on, OVW was the talk of the nation. But if you followed the dirt sheet writers, they didn't even exist.
No,
OVW didn't exist. They had this huge show on Netflix. Everybody was putting over. It's kind of the same thing with NWA. Bro, why do you think that is?
We're not the top dog. The WWE will always have, the most attention and the most notoriety because that's who they are, and that's what it should be. AEW is a live or die smart mark train to fucking nowhere that they will be defensive over whatever makes them seem like they're a credible threat or a successful business, no matter how bad it may seem or get. Plus, if people are talking bad about it, that retorts with people defending it, and then you are in a flame war of people talking about things they have no idea what they're talking about because it's all probably lies. Same thing with TNA when I was on top there. Maybe I'm just cancer. I don't know. When I was on top of TNA, we'd barely get any pub unless, it was the 15th fucking version of companies closing, which never happened, by the way. I don't see TNA get a shit ton of pub either. I think it's just because the small minority of voices have hearkened to be defensive and adoration for one product, while the biggest product is always going to get the most attention.
What do you think the perception is of Billy, bro, to the wrestling audience? What do you think the perception of Billy is?
Based on, the internet and false reports, it probably seems like he's a asshole who doesn't belong in the business when in theory, I grew up a fan of the dude and his music, where when I find out we have an ally at a super high level of the entertainment world, I'm like, fuck yeah. And I like him even more. Like, that dude loves wrestling. So do I. Maybe he can be, a catalyst for getting more attention or more notoriety. I think the internet's a weird place. They don't like people that are successful and independent and self-made. I don't know.
It's a very weird place because, bro, on the other hand, they embrace Tony Khan.
Right.
If I'm putting Tony Khan next to Billy Corgan, who do I want? Money aside, even though Billy's loaded too, money aside, who would I want to run my company? It would be Billy Corgan, hands down.
He has a track record for success in entertainment and connections beyond measure in so many different assets and places within the realm. But Tony is one of them, and Tony gives them what they want. And like I say constantly, true creativity isn't giving somebody what they want, it's giving people what they didn't know they needed. And sometimes to do that, you can't give the people what they think they want. But if they become impatient, or if they're constantly getting their dopamine hit and their little fixes, every Wednesday and Friday from the guy that's their, he's one of them. He came up on the fantasy booking on the internet and reads Reddit and probably has burner accounts and, Googles himself and Twitter searches himself, that he's one of them, and he is their voice of reason, and he is their deity, so to speak.
Bro, as a guy that, you worked with Triple H, of course, having worked for Triple H and now having working with Billy, you don't work for him, you work with Billy. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of the two? I would love to hear that. Your honest opinion. What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses when you compare a Triple H to a Billy Corgan?
Remember, like 2003 to 2008 Triple H, where he was the internet's most hated man because of all the rumors and perceptions that he was a politician or he played the game, which he used brilliantly as a character arc. Like, he's holding people back, or he's manipulating. Oh, he's marrying it. But what did he do brilliantly to kind of get them back on their side is when he took over NXT, he made it the promotion the internet wants to see. And so he got carte blanche with that very, very vocal, minority fan base to now, he's pretty much, I think, universally liked and adored. And, he's ahead of creative. Thank God Vince is gone. Weaknesses. I think he's a very good leader, honestly. He has a body of work. He has a track record. If he's asking you to do something, he more than likely has done it himself. And I respect that. He's been on top, he's main evented the biggest shows. He's a catalyst for great growth in the industry. I'm not sucking up for a job. I'm just trying to lay out the facts.
But bro, let me ask you this question, because every time I worked with somebody in a position like that, this is what I came across. This is what it always turned out to be. I'm using Jeff Jarrett as a great example. And bro, I'm not saying this to disparage or belittle Jeff Jarrett at all whatsoever. But bro, here's the God honest truth, man. Jeff Jarrett was one of the boys. So, bro, when you put him now in a position of power where he's on creative, writing the show, making decisions, bro, there is some baggage and personal issues with people that are on the show. Bro, I'll never forget, man, when Sting signed with TNA, freaking Jeff had a wild hair up his ass because Dixie was paying Sting more than she was paying him. So what I'm saying is, bro, when you're one of the boys and you're put in that position of management, there is going to be baggage there that ultimately is going to affect your decision making. And I think if you put anybody in that spot, whether it's a Dusty or a Kevin Sullivan, I think if you put any wrestler in that spot, that's what's going to ultimately happen. Did you see that with Triple H at all?
I can see that with myself. And I could see that in retrospect, maybe because, Jeff was still working full time. Dusty, when he booked, was still working full time. Triple H, when he was NXT creative, was still kind of working in main angles on television and main events on Raw, and so to speak. Now that his career in ring is probably done and he's relegated to his, high end position, I think one thing, though, that applies to that is maybe threat to legacy. And this is why I see it in myself, is that Triple H, great leader, and I think he's easy to talk to and good to collaborate with. If you have ideas, you can talk to him unafraid. But will it be a threat to his legacy? So I think a lot of the times when he was pushing people, early NXT were more internet favorites. They can get as over as they want. But they're never going to be me, is something I kind of gathered. And I see myself doing this sometimes too. So I'm not a hypocrite. But like a Johnny Gargano or Tommaso. Yeah, they're getting over. They're doing great. They're having great matches. But they're never going to be 6'4", 270 shredded. they're never going to be multiple time WWE champions. So he can get behind people and bring them to a super high level, as long as if you look at the hierarchy and lore of wrestling, I'm always going to be here, and anybody else I bring usually tops out around here. And I think the only name that has come close would be a Roman in the similar kind of retrospect, and Roman was more of a Vince creation than a Triple H one. So I can see that being a flaw maybe, and I don't know if it's subliminal or realistic. But when I'm putting together shows with Exodus or thing, I'm pulling myself off my own show this week just so I can heal. Plus, I want these talents to do the show on their own. I want to be in the back and I want to manage the shit, so I don't have to worry about working too. But I'm I can do that on this show because in theory, the main event was going to be these people anyways. I was given that spot, and the next show I'm going to be the main event again, and I'm probably going to go over. Where I'm dude, who cares? So I'm putting myself in that same position where I can bring as many people up, but am I going to let them surpass me? I'm not going to let them, but I will give them the route to, and if they're ready to, they can try.
Now explain that mindset to me, bro, because, bro, this is very interesting, and I'll tell you why, bro, because I've said this a million times. Bro, I was involved in the business when it was a very great era and a very great time. And, bro, to the surprise of many, when you ask me who was the greatest wrestler / performer I ever worked with, okay, and you ask me that all around, who was the best performer, bro, I will say without a shadow of a doubt, Shawn Michaels. Yeah. It was Shawn. When you look at every aspect of the business, it was Shawn, which is so freaking funny, bro, because that's what I say all the time. These kids are coming up through Shawn, and I'm the one saying Shawn was the greatest all time. But, bro, I'm seeing so many people come through his system, and by the time they get to the main stage, they're mediocre at best. And I'm like, how is that happening, bro? This is arguably the greatest wrestler of all time, and he's developing mediocre talent. How is that possible?